Hi everyone and welcome to my review of Kevin Connolly's Gotti in 2018. Here we are. Yeah, this is a film that I really wanted to check out, and today I didn't have much time to, stick on, a great film or anything. So I thought, let's just go for a film that's it's definitely going to be bad. Let's face it, it has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I've been wanting to see this, really just to kind of see how bad it is and laugh about it, and yeah, just to see if it is, he's kind of one of the worst films ever made, like it's been called. It is based on the true life of John Gotti, centered in New York, the Gambino family, and it tells a story of his family, him, and of course John Travolta. Now let's just say, and I've never seen any of the other Kevin Connolly films. I've never really heard of this guy, but yeah, John Travolta, of course, is the star that's in this film. Most of the people in the film aren't really big at all. Stacy Keach, he's a great actor at times. He's not in this, but yeah, he's also in the film. John Travolta, now he is a great actor. I love John Travolta. He's very enjoyable in Grease, in Saturday Night Fever, of course. And even Face Off. He's very enjoyable, and of course the big one, Pulp Fiction. He is legendary in that film. One of my favourites. This film, everyone has said how bad the performance is. I literally saw maybe one or two clips before actually checking this out. Watched it on Netflix, and I sat down to it today for the first time. And let me tell you, this film just, I would definitely recommend it because there's no doubt at least some of the film you will enjoy in terms of how bad it is. It's an enjoyable experience to see and you just kind of laugh at. But wow, this film is truly awful. Wow, and actually in the second half of the film, towards the end it does get slightly, not as bad, not quite as bad. It's still bad the whole film, but it's more boring. On a moment-to-moment basis, I would say that this film, there's only a few films I've seen that are more boring, but it's definitely one of the most boring. Not quite the most boring, but it could be the film, and it's not even 2 hours long. This felt like a whole day session because I think mainly it's the editing. It's mainly this film. It literally is. It's a rip off of many films, including the Godfather films. Goodfellas definitely Goodfellas, Casino. All these Scorsese films, The Departed as well. Actually, at points. I kind of saw a bit of Scarface in there as well, the 80s version. So many different gangster films. Very risky to do. At this point, the gangster film definitely quite obviously references many films, and even just in the way the film is the tone of it, the way the use of music at times. But it's literally like some kid, has gone and, without any discipline, has just gone and made this, and just reference all these films, and not really told a film, being its own film, kind of thing. It's literally like someone, making all these gangster films in one, but with a kind of twist in there. It's more the way the camera moves, very kind of documentary, docudrama kind of ways. I think the way that the camera is very random, it's meant to be more realistic or something. But yeah, that's the only thing. It doesn't really resemble a lot of gangster films. Is that? But the camera movements and every shot really is mostly awful. It opens. This is bizarre. This film. It opens with John Travolta. He turns around in a really just poor shot straight away. And he's standing by the river and stuff, and he's saying, "New York, the greatest city in the world." And basically saying it's his city and stuff. And he's talking to us because the film is told out of order. It's non-linear, and actually this is a really bad choice here because they didn't know how to do this properly. It just adds to the confusion, but it starts off with him somewhere, it's certainly not at the end of the timeline of the film, and it's not at the beginning, but he says, some people in this game, they do, and of course there's a spoiler review got in the description. Yes, but basically saying that some people end up in prison, some dead. In the end, I done both. Now, unless this film is just at the beginning and at the end, of course, it's him just, it's not meant to be really him in a way, that doesn't make sense because in the middle of the timeline he's saying, what happened and stuff. It's just so bizarre, it's literally like an out out of the film sort of moment, kind of fourth wall breaking, but really really weird because a lot of the film that you see even quite early on, is the parts towards the end when he's in prison and he's basically dying, and he sees his son. Also, John. So yeah, there's about five or six different Johns in the film actually, which just adds to the confusion. But yeah, this was an experience to just laugh my head off at. For the first hour, the second hour, not quite as much laughs. It just became more and more boring. But actually, at times, it picked up in maybe in quality slightly. But actually, at one point, this film would have got my unwatchable rating, which is single figures. Yeah, that's how bad it is. It's a horrendous film. But yeah, I did find a lot of enjoyment. I just laughing how bad it was because, wow, this film within the first 10 minutes, it's so poor. It's literally five. I'm not exaggerating. Five different timeline moments. You've got the 1999 part. You've got the 74, 77, 79, I think, and another part as well. So there's so many different points, and it's so random. It's not Once Upon a Time in America, which you could say it kind of takes from what it attempts to be a structure. It doesn't tell the story out of order, but having everything leading to the next with the anticipation coming before every preceding each scene, and of course it actually making a narrative, the narrative momentum basically. It does not do that. That is structured perfectly, that film, and the way that it all just has a wonderful flow. There is only roughly a total of 4 or 5 kind of moments in the timeline in that entire film, and that's 4 hours. This one has around about 10 actually. It's pathetic, but yeah, it kind of drops you in there. These scenes are so random. It doesn't tell me anything about this family really at all. And the way it presents these gangsters. Wow, this film is so hard to review, but yes, it tells all these different moments. Even within the first 10 minutes, I was already confused, kind of thing. I don't know the specifics of this, this case, but I'm of course aware of it. But you will not be enlightened, that's for sure, once you've seen the film, because it just confused me so much. I didn't know, after the sort of first 20 minutes, it stopped saying the year quite a lot of the time, apart from in some insignificant moments. So it kind of just really confused me even more. I just didn't know what was going on most of the time. It stops telling you the year and stuff, which it's just so weird. All the placements of all the devices, that it's trying to say. Kevin Connolly, how he's trying to tell the story is literally poorly placed in every aspect of the film. And I'll get to some of the use of music later on. But yes, the structure straight away is abysmal. And it already, I paused it, around what I thought was probably like near the end of the film, literally 40 minutes in, and I was thinking, wow, 40 minutes. This has felt like a whole day, because the editing is so poor. It's really laughable. And it just does not make sense. You've got as well really off-tone moments because of this. You've got people dying and then people straight away laughing, but not for an effect, just literally random. It feels so poorly made. And it just, wow. The performance, of course, by John Travolta does add a lot of humour to the film. If he wasn't in it and it was some lesser known guy, I think it would have been even less enjoyable. And it's not mocking him. It's just kind of yeah. Of course, it's going to be funny. I think he could probably laugh at it, afterwards. But this is dreadful. There's no denying this is a bad performance. It's a shame, but it's hilarious to see. And just I think the performance is so and the character is so poorly judged in this film. The writing. Some of the worst writing I've ever seen. Just the lines. I've actually written them down here. Some of the lines. The greatest city in the world. Of course, I've said. The son of John Gotti, also known as John or Johnny Boy, who's basically very prominent in the film. He kind of he's a big part in the film, of course. And yes, there's moments he keeps saying, "I'll go off a cliff for you." I just thought that line was really hilarious, the way it's done. Not, "I'll jump off a cliff" or drive off. "I'll go off a cliff for you." Hilarious stuff. I couldn't stop laughing at it for a while. Just really, really poor dialogue throughout the entire picture. And of course, every scene pretty much, it's very, very flat dramatically. I didn't because of how it started, but also because each scene on a scene-to-scene basis is so bad. I didn't know really what a lot of the characters, who they were. Paul is the character who, is involved in the film. Obviously, it's a spoiler review. They do try and take him out many times in the film, and he's mentioned a lot in the first half, especially. I didn't know who he was to the point of the scene in the steakhouse, where the assassination kind of goes by, goes down, and there's about 10 men gearing up before this. You see, of course, including Travolta's character. I thought, as a different character, and I was surprised when I was like, who is Paul? And he was getting killed at this moment. It had been built up for the first half of the film. I didn't even know who Paul was. That's how bad this film is. I was really paying attention, but I just couldn't actually grasp who was who. It's just all over the place. This is one of the most messy films I've seen. And of course, as I say, it does reference many gangster films. I think Goodfellas, as I've said, Casino, the Godfather films, it sometimes tries to do this kind of sophistication of the Godfathers, in the way that everyone's, acting and stuff. Yeah, just the stances. And then at times it's kind of like Goodfellas, and especially the use of music, it tries to rip off that, in the way that it uses the music. This does not fit well at all. It's just, I've never seen a film for a while where the music is so poorly judged. It completely takes away from many of the dramatic scenes, but then also the dramatic scenes are already there, and so poorly done, it's poorly acted. It's just laughable anyway. So this film really works on no level whatsoever. The shots are so poorly judged most of the time, aside from the one where the light is flickering near the end of the film, under through the bridge, and the car is driving. That was okay, but again, nothing to speak of really. But the shots, so poorly done. The editing is some of the worst I've ever seen. This is such a poorly directed film. I could not believe it. This film, I thought it would be bad, and I thought, I would find some laughs in it. I found at times more laughs than I thought I would, but wow, this is actually possibly worse overall than I thought it would be. I thought, because as a kid, I always say, and I still say, it's hard to mess up a gangster film. Would you not agree? To really mess one up, make it this unenjoyable and stuff, and just uninteresting and flat, because as well, even the violence in the film, and it is done in, it's not, the kind of humanity that, say, Scorsese would bring to violence in his films. This is really badly done in that sense. But actually the deaths themselves, the shootouts, you could say, are so unenjoyable. It's so poorly edited, poorly shot. It just feels so low budget, but, I don't actually think it was that much of a low budget. I'm not too sure on that, but it's so well, poorly done, as well, and just all these kind of shootouts are so bad. They're so boring. So you've not even got that. The style of the film. There's some decent costumes and stuff, but you can't really praise that on its own. It does have different color tones for the different time periods. I just think actually it just adds to the kind of messy nature. It doesn't really allow me to distinguish through that alone the different time periods. It's just a jumbled mess. It kind of, in that sense, peters out towards the end. It does stick to mainly two different time periods. And of course, it does try and come together fairly well. It fails, but I think the final 20 minutes is probably the best of the film, although it's still bad. I think the son and the actor who plays him, John Gotti, the son John, or Johnny, wow, really bad. At times, the worst performance and worst character in the film. And of course, there's so many moments in the first half that I was laughing at, the bits, there's certain deaths in the film that are so poorly done, it's actually laughable, and it's just so ludicrous and so laughable, and it's just, it does not work at all, and just, it's such a bizarre film. The use of music as well. A lot of the film, the music is done by Pitbull. So I didn't quite get that. Because it's really, it's meant to, as well. The film, it's really poorly done with the way it's meant to really ramp down your throat. This guy is amazing, and he's a man. But then of course, when it's shown him in the press and stuff, John Gotti, this bad man, and then it has kind of rap music and stuff. Pitbull, playing, and it's so poorly judged. If they wanted to maybe do something like this, I don't see why they would use this music. So even that doesn't work. The style of the film doesn't even really elevate it. You know, it's actually really poorly done in that sense as well. And just every act of the film, oh, it is awful. You know, some of the film is not quite unwatchable, but a lot of it is, especially if you couldn't see the funny side. You know, I've seen many gangster films since I was quite young actually. Yeah, I saw films like Casino when I was less than 10 years old, but you know, whatever the opinion on that is, fair enough. But the fact is, I've always watched gangster films and stuff as long as I can remember. So I do see the funny side and kind of how this is really bad. You know, it's messing up so many different things it's meant to be, and it's kind of a parody at times without trying to be. You know, it's unintentionally hilarious. But yeah, if you don't kind of see that, you know, in the film, it's going to be even, you know, more unenjoyable. So yeah, it's a really awful film. As I say, this is very close to unwatchable. You know, it never you know, informed me of anything. But even then, you know, in its own right, these characters, you know, for cinema, you know, they're so bad. You know, they're so weak. The characters, the writing is awful. You know, the ending line is literally, you know, kind of. It's something like, you wouldn't see a person as bad as me, or you know, if you lived to 5,000. So yeah, it's stuff like this that just it makes it more laughable. You know, but it's a ludicrous film. You know, it's a bore fest of a film. Bored me to tears at times. Made me in hysterics other times. But all unintentionally. And that's the thing. You know, that's why I can't really praise the film. You know, I think there's no charm to it. There's nothing really where I actually feel though that these are gangsters. You know, I think because it's so laughable and just poorly made, and you know, the acting is always bad. Stacy Keach, surprisingly, not even good in the film. I thought he'd be good. No, you know, John Travolta, it does add some laughs, but wow, you know, it's just, and I don't think it's his fault. You know, it's just such a poorly made film. You know, as I say, how can someone make a gangster film this uninteresting for the screen? You know, cinema always has at least mostly enjoyable, you know, kind of gangster films. They usually have something, even the style, and as I say, even the style to the film, you know, is not that impressive. So yeah, an awful film that I'd have to give an incredibly low percentage of 12%. So yeah, it's very close, as I say, to unwatchable. Maybe the last 20 minutes or so redeemed it from being that, because it was just somewhat more coherent, but still a bore fest, and even more boring actually. The second half, you've got people, you know, this family, hitting, making mob hits and stuff. You've got things involved in the media. You've got all this going on, but just it's all over the place. I did not, half the time I didn't know what was going on. You know, you can't really grasp this narrative. It's one of the most, you know, poor narratives I've seen. You know, of what I can remember actually. This is meant to be a drama. It comes across really badly in that sense. You know, it's not intentionally a comedy. Although maybe some of the scenes where they are trying to, you know, go for laughs, they're not the funny ones. It's mostly the stuff where it's so bad it's hilarious. You know, it's just insane, this film, the way, you know, how poorly it's told in a non-linear fashion, how it kind of rips off Casino, Goodfellas, the Godfather films. Quite easily, you know, you can clearly see it rips them off. So again, I'm baffled to how, you know, Connolly thought he could get away with this. There's lines that just keep coming throughout the film that are just hilarious. I'll go off a cliff for you, as I say, being one of them. You know, as well, let me tell you something. That comes up quite a lot in the film. You know, or, yeah, let me tell you something. Let me tell you this and stuff. It's just constant, you know, and it just always means, oh, here we go. There's an exposition scene. It's meant to reveal more about the characters and stuff, and the relationships, the kind of the themes of loyalty and stuff. It's all laughable. It's all mocking stock, you know, laughing stock, and you know, I can't say much more. This is hilarious in the first half, but awful at times, unwatchable. The second half, mostly, it's not even laughable. So, yeah, you know, I think as well, how are we meant to believe that at one point the son is 20 years older when he looks literally still like a kid, and then he's got kids of his own in the second half, and you see him, one of them standing next to him, literally looks the same age. There's all this stuff. It just adds to the experience of just, you can't believe this is happening, and then to top it all off, it ends the same sort of scene it starts with, and another awful line. These are some of the worst lines I've ever heard. They don't make sense. They're just stupid, and I don't know, the tone was all off consistently throughout the film. The use of music, the cinematography was awful. The editing was even worse. Top 10 worst edited films I've ever seen in my entire life. And yeah, I loved, you know, just watching this and kind of, you know, in the first half especially, and just seeing how bad it was. But I also hated the film at the same time, especially, you know, the second half. It was so boring. I would recommend it, but then I wouldn't recommend it. Only if you know you're going in just to kind of maybe get some laughs from it, you know, and stuff, unintentional comedy. But wow, there's no way this is going to be a film that anyone loves, in the sense that, you know, at least I think that you know, it's a great story, you know, in the way it's told, and great characters. It's so bad. It's the most unlikable group of, you know, kind of criminals, and you know, it shows so much. You know, films like Goodfellas, they can make these compelling characters, and you know, the charm and stuff, combined with, you know, the harshness, the brutality of this life, the themes of family. In this film, it's so poorly portrayed, and that's enough to say, you know, this film is awful, close to unwatchable. It pretty much is at many moments, but yeah, Gotti. You know, I think this was so bad. This was worse than I thought it would be, and yeah, it is definitely one of the worst films I've ever seen. Certainly in the last sort of 5 years or so. So yeah, Gotti, an awful film. This is a piece of something else, you know. I think, but I did enjoy some, you know, unintentional comedy and stuff. You know, it was an experience that I'd say I'd recommend, but then I wouldn't recommend it as a piece of cinema because it's really, really bad. An awful film, and yeah. Thanks for watching my review.